Hello, my name is Okkyung Lee, and I'm a cellist, composer, and improviser. Originally from Korea, but currently I'm living in Berlin.
I'm Emily Nam. We are art people.
Slowly but surely, you realize, okay, that I'm not interested, that I'm more curious about, okay. And then there'll be something that I don't quite understand, but I'm curious. But you know what I mean? Like you kind of start to have learn how to navigate between all these different group of people and styles and venues. Um, yeah, I think that's what happened in the first 5 years. And then maybe the next 5 years was me trying to kind of realize, okay, what is it I want to do? Now I say, I don't like that. I like that one. So then what do I do with that information myself? And then try that out. And yeah, there are lots of trials that failed, and I'm sure that once in a while it was okay, and then but most of the time it was just kind of trial and error.
Over the last 2 decades, Okkyung Lee has been a vital force in the global experimental music scene. Widely recognised for her improvisational works and instrumental compositions, she has collaborated with artists from a wide range of disciplines, including Arca, Marclay, Ellen Fullman, Douglas Gordon, Christian Marclay, Marina Rosenfeld, Thurston Moore, Kue Mori, and Rashad Becker. In 2016, Okkyung formed and composes music for a harp, cello, double bass, and piano quartet called Yeo-Neun Quartet. Yeo-Neun means opening gesture. I want to emphasize Okkyung's reference to the action of opening versus already open. This difference is important. There is a tension and an energetic process of becoming. This feels essential to feeling into the poetic field of sounds and lyrical melodies that are produced. In 2020, their first album was released, a structurally complex journey through subliminal memories and space. Okkyung Lee was born in South Korea and moved to Boston in 1992 to study both writing production and film scoring at Berklee College of Music, and continued with a master's degree at the New England Conservatory of Music in contemporary improvisation. This journey in the United States marks a significant period of growth and exposure to a new form for listening to and making music. Exposed for the first time to musicians such as Miles Davis and John Coltrane, it was a pathway for bringing together inspirations including noise, improvisation, jazz, Western classical, and the traditional music of Okkyung's homeland. In the 2000s, Okkyung moved to New York and fell with ease into the avant-garde music scene that included performance nights at Tonic, the Knitting Factory, and a plethora of artists and musicians that she was able to stretch, move, bend, and create a sonic world with. Hi Okkyung, it's lovely to speak with you today.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too, Emily.
So you're in Berlin. I think you were living in New York and you've just moved to Berlin. Is that correct?
No, I left New York at the end of 2020. Then I went to Korea. So I spent almost like 4 years, a little more than 4 years in Korea, even though I was spending half the year like in Europe because that's where I usually work. Yeah, so I mean, I left New York. I guess it was still in the middle of pandemic after moving to the States in 1993. So yeah, that was quite a change. But now I'm in Berlin.
And you're all settled in Berlin now? You're starting a residency.
Yeah, I am. Well, I mean, I did live in Berlin around 2010 for almost 3 years. And so I officially moved to Berlin this end of this February. But then I slept only like 2 days, and I had to go to Belgium and France for 10 days and came back for like 5 days and went back to Norway and just came back. So I think I spent about like 10 days so far. Thankfully, the weather is great, sky's blue, and I like my new neighborhood. And yeah, now I cannot wait to just relax and enjoy this new environment. Yeah. So I'm quite excited. Yeah.
That's great. And it's called DAAD Residency?
Yeah, it's called DAAD. Yeah, I mean, it's German. I think it's a Deutsche Akademie something, but it's called the Artists-in-Residence Program. And I think they started like quite some time ago. Yeah, so, and I think there's always like at least like 4 or 5 residents under certain different disciplines. So this they usually have like three or four composers, I think. So yeah.
Do you have a plan of how you're approaching the year, or it's very open?
It is quite open. It's not like they have a specific requirement, but I just did this big piece, whatever that means. I just wrote a piece for an ensemble that was like 16 people, and it's a new music ensemble, which was quite new to me. And I mean, it was great, but then also at the same time, the time I had with them to work on the piece was quite limited because I mean, I guess that's how they usually operate. You know, like big ensembles, they have big schedule, and they also have to all these people to rehearse one piece is impractical. So after that, I was like, okay, maybe it'll be great if I can actually have some kind of ensemble, either an existing ensemble in Berlin, or maybe I can kind of invite people to form an ensemble that I can develop some works over next year, which is also quite, that's kind of luxurious. But I guess that's what I'm here for, take advantage of this time. Yeah. So, yeah.
Of
So,
course.
yeah.
So I just wanted to go back a bit to your earlier years. You've played the cello from, I think it was 6 years old
Uh-huh.
around.
Yeah.
And so you were studying classical,
Yeah. Only classical.
and then you moved to America to study. Did you move? How old were you when you moved?
I was 18.
18. And then I wanted to talk about that shift of having a very sort of class. Were you, I don't know if bored's the right word, but were you bored of classical music and then you were looking for something else?
hated playing the cello, if that's what you have to say.
Yeah.
I started playing the piano when I was 3. Then I started playing the cello just because my mom. I went to this Catholic elementary school. It was a really nice private elementary school, and all the students had to play an instrument every day for 20 minutes a day. So I don't remember exactly, but I think my mom just came one day and said, "Okay, you are going to play the cello because you have big hands." That's how it began. And I think my first cello teacher was a nun who was really strict.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I just went on, and not because I ever wanted to, but I guess I was just telling somebody actually in Norway. I was just always like kind of good enough to go on. You know what I mean? If I was like really terrible, I think my mom would have stopped me from doing it. But I was almost like good enough to go on. So she kept saying, if you work a little harder, being a typical Korean mom, if you work a little harder, you'll be amazing. So why don't you work harder? I really didn't get into it until I was like maybe 17. I learned this piece. It was a Bach cello suite, number 6, this Alamang. And then I think that was the first time I really felt like, oh, I love playing the cello because I kind of somehow I found my way in to this piece. And I really put myself into learning this piece and then trying to interpret the best way possible, which was completely destroyed by my cello teacher saying it was all wrong. So after that, even that like tiny bit of a enthusiasm for playing the cello just like went out the window. And then I said, okay, no more. I'm done with this. I'm done with the classical music and also playing the cello. So I was going to give up. Then, so it was that piece of music was for an entrance exam in Korea. Then I didn't get in, and I was so happy and relieved because I finally had a excuse to tell my mom, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. But I left home when I was 12 to go to this music and art school. And I spent lots of time basically by myself listening to different kinds of music. And I somehow got into music that I thought it was jazz, but later it turned out to be smooth jazz anyway. So I was kind of got into this non-classical music early on. And then, so I was like listening to that kind of music a lot. And then there was this pianist who went to study at Berklee College of Music in Boston and studied jazz. And I thought, okay, that's what I want to do. So I just said to my mom, okay, I'm going to I'm going to Boston to study this music. I mean, I didn't tell her jazz. I kind of lied to her, saying I want to study recording engineering because it looked cool. It sounded like, impressive. And she said yes. So I went to Boston when I was 18.
And that's where you really immersed yourself. You ended up studying, doing a master's in improvisation, and found your voice, or found a path to kind of led you down this contemporary experimental way.
Yeah, but it's not like I was looking for it. I mean, I wasn't going to play the cello. Playing the cello was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do something different, but I did music all my life, and I felt like, okay, if I just, first of all, if I just get out of this environment and go to somewhere different, and maybe something will change. I mean, I was too young to even think about it. I was just like, okay, I'll just go to this school in Boston. And then funny thing is, because so after I finished high school and until I started going to school in Boston, because the school years, like, they started in different ways. So I had like 8 months of not touching the cello at all, which felt great. Then it said, even at Berklee, even though you are not majoring in performance studies, you still have to play your instrument for 2 years. So the only thing I knew how to play was the cello. So I just brought the cello with me, and I met this cello teacher there who was really positive, and everything I did, she was like, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" And I was thinking, "No, it's not amazing. I just made a bunch of mistakes. I don't know why you say this is amazing." But gradually, it kind of, maybe took away the fear of playing the cello. Then also, I started play in lots of students' projects for their midterm projects, and lots of film scores, and lots of composition major teacher students, and mostly like quite simple stuff. But then I guess maybe I just need some encouragement from people saying like, okay, you sound actually quite good. And so eventually I got into it, and then because I always had this like passion for film, so when I kind of learned that there was this major called the film scoring, I kind of got intrigued, and I became friendly with lots of teachers there because I played in lots of students' projects. So I kind of started studying that major, and then also study composition, and yeah. But I think it was 1996-ish. A friend of mine had moved to New York before, like, and then I think I just went to visit her with a friend of mine, another friend of mine, and she just took us to this concert at the Knitting Factory, which was on Leonard Street in Tribeca. And I heard Joe Maneri, the saxophone player, playing with his son, Matt Maneri. And that was the first time I heard a string player playing something that was not classical and not jazz. And it sounded, I mean, it wasn't like I thought it was amazing, but it was really intriguing because I didn't really understand what he was doing, but it wasn't jazz, it wasn't classical, it was something that I never heard of. Yeah, so I was like really intrigued by it without knowing that actually that was called improvisation. So that was the first time I experienced music like that on a string instrument. Then after that, I came back to Boston, still thinking like that music had nothing to do with me. But meanwhile, when I was kind of practicing in a little practice rooms, I would kind of go off and play something on my own, just like like I was maybe practicing something that was on the paper, and within like 10 minutes, I would drift away some place, and I'll be just playing something, making something up, and it didn't sound like jazz, it didn't sound like classical. And so I just, thought there was no value to it. I thought, oh, there's nothing. That doesn't mean anything. Then, but I kept doing it. I kept doing it. And then it was only for my own enjoyment. And then later, I was talking to my composition teacher, and he said, "Oh, you're improvising." And I said, "No, I'm not." I mean, because the only kind of improvising I knew back then was playing over chord changes, like in jazz, playing over, lead sheet. And I didn't really understand. But then he said, "Yeah, you're improvising." So I kind of kept at it, right? But The turning point came when a friend of mine, he was Danish drummer, I don't remember his name, but he had a birthday party across the street from me. And lots of students, international students mostly, they lived quite nearby the school. And I guess, I mean, yeah, I mean, I was pretty drunk. I didn't have a present for him. And I think I declared to everybody, okay, I don't have a present for you, but I'll play a song on my cello. And everybody, woohoo, okay. So I went to my place across the street, put the cello up, started playing, thinking that, oh my God, they will hate this. They will think this is all bullshit. And so I said something. So I played and nobody booed. People clapped. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe it wasn't so terrible. So that was the very first time I improvised in front of other people. And yeah, so that's how it started. It's not like, oh my God, there's this thing called improvisation. I really want to get into it. No, it wasn't like that. It was just somehow I was kind of gently pushed into certain direction, and I was doing it little by little. And then one of the most important thing was that I was having fun doing it, which was probably the first time, playing on the cello, playing something on the cello, feel like, oh yeah, I can do something. And then another friend of mine who went to NEC, New England Conservatory of Music, where I did my master's, and she said there's this major called contemporary improvisation. And because I was trying to figure out, my parents were like, okay, you need to get the master's degree. And the only place that offered master's degree in film scoring one was in LA and one was in South Carolina, I think. I forget the name, but there are only two schools had a major master's program, and I didn't really feel like going to either places. And so this person said that you could apply for this major, like contemporary improvisation. There's almost no restriction, and it's really small, but it's interesting. So I just applied without thinking too much, and I just sent in two pieces of a solo cello stuff I was doing, and then on top of that, I even got some kind of scholarship that was enough, that because also at the same time in Korea, this IMF crisis happened. So lots of people lost everything, including my parents. So it just came at the right timing. So I went on to NEC, and that's where I learned a lot. And I learned a lot because I really didn't know anything. So yeah, it was really fun, 2 years learning not only from the teachers but also from fellow students, because there's so many people who knew about so many different types of music and experiences. So yeah, so I guess that's how it began. Yeah.
How much did classical training? I went through it myself.
Yeah.
At a younger age is very rigid and disciplined, and breaking out of that kind of thinking and giving space for the improvisation. And you said it was fun. And what else? Was there a feeling, or was there just something that made sense inside you to keep following those paths, even though you didn't know what the outcome was going to be?
Well, I mean, I think the most important part was that, I was the one who was, I mean, it's so simple. Like somebody just, at NEC especially, they said, yeah, go for it. You can do more. So I got that permission, and that was it. And then also, until then, I don't think I really felt any kind of connection to my instrument, even though I had been playing for, 15, 17, I mean, many, many years. I guess by then I was, already playing for like 17, 18 years. And then all of a sudden, I started to have this kind of connection to the instrument, and I felt like, oh, actually, it is really it's kind of producing something that I am like putting in. You know what I mean? If I put more force into it, the sound changes and it's interesting. So if I change a little bit of this, like, bowing angle, sound changes. You know what I mean? I was kind of encouraged to find my own ways to explore around the instrument. And there was no such thing as wrong or right. I mean, of course, it wasn't my goal to, it's not like I was doing it to destroy everything I learned. It was just kind of utilizing all that experience and knowledge I had. I mean, it was like, yeah, like what, almost 12 years of, doing classical music. And I just like went a little maybe further than what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah, so I think it was that permission, having the permission, saying like, yeah, you make up your own way of playing, and then you decide if you like it or not. If you decide, and you decide if it's something that you want to keep exploring or not. So I think
Mm.
that kind of a connection to the instrument, and then also being able to really hear things in a way. It wasn't like playing a beautiful sound. It was more like, okay, so you are making this sound, and what is it, what do you really hear, try to understand what's happening. So yeah, and that was fun. It's not like, whoa, this is so much fun, but it's like having that yeah, something to that you can go deep and then try to understand what's happening while it's happening, and then also find a way to use it as a vocabulary to play with other people or play by yourself. And then yeah, so that I think that like really direct relationship to you and the instrument, and then whatever that's coming out of it. So
Yeah, it feels like you became more interested in the physical response, like I make this action and
no, it
this
wasn't only
this is the
about
sound.
physical. It wasn't only about physical. It was about like kind of maybe like coming up with the different ways of a like maybe it can be like really subtle things, but just changing it. But then
Mhm.
like then it becomes, because I mean, maybe I'm sure there are times that I was just like doing it, just like for the sake of like doing something different physically on the instrument. But I think it was always a sound. So because lots of times, I mean, it's still like, it's not like I always understand how certain sound is produced. I just know that I am doing certain things, and then also like depending on how I control certain things or not, there's just like changes that's happening within the sound. And then it's just me constantly trying to juggle all these things that I think is happening at the same time, so I can maintain it while taking it somewhere, which becomes an improvisation too. So
When you are doing improvisation, um, do you have a certain vocabulary that you are working through and techniques, or is there a moment where you have a starting point and then it will just go off and you're in this state now where you have developed so many skills, like I think the classical training and just developing technique, and then the experimental exploration of the instrument. Are you in a place now where you're so embedded and connected to the instrument? Is it like another part of your body that you can just let yourself go?
yeah, I mean, it's been like that for a while. I mean, I don't have a plan when I improvise. It's just
Mm-hmm.
like because improvisation is really being in the moment, dealing with the whatever that's happening then. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot predict what's going to happen. As I
Mm-hmm.
said, I don't even know what's really exactly happening. I have a certain idea of what might be producing this and that, but also at the same time, I'm constantly trying to figure out. It's not only about the vocabulary, but it's like I have to understand where it's supposed to go musically. Where are we heading? It's either solo or playing with somebody else, but where are we heading to? What's the bigger picture? So that I cannot predict, right? Because I mean, I think if somebody has a like, I mean, then it'll be like constantly. I mean, I guess you can call it the instant composing, but if I have that much planned ahead, I might as well just compose.
Mm.
Yeah,
You do composing as well?
yeah.
Yeah. And so if you are improvising, is there a sense or a sound that you're trying to meet? Because I feel you've got these very two different aspects, and I want to talk about collaboration in a minute. But there is this sort of very active sound, and I was thinking before we spoke about, you've got these metal strings, and then you've got the bow, which is made of a natural fiber. So I feel some of the sounds you make are very tense and confronting, and then there's also these very subliminal melodic spaces that you create. And so is there something you're trying to
No, I'm just trying to do
achieve?
something that's me. I'm just trying
Yeah.
to make
Hmm.
something that makes sense to me, something that I want to do, and It's not like, okay, now I've done something intense sounding, so I'm going to do something that's like totally the opposite. No, I mean, it is true that I don't like to be labeled. I don't like when somebody comes and try to describe the way what I do in 2 sentences. Uh, I don't want to do it, for other people's work either. It's like, how can you sum up what that person is doing?
Mm.
Like, and then also like people have a different perception and idea of what it is, and then I understand why people say it's intense. I mean, it is intense because, like, when I play, because I have to go through. I feel like I'm going through so many different like layers of thinking and trying to, make things going. It's intense for me in terms of that, and then also physically it is demanding. But it's not like I'm always like I want to play something that's intense. I mean, I like intense, like, but then noise or loud or dissonant is not always meant to be confrontational. It's just like it's supposed to be the sound. And then also, yes, there is a certain physical element to it because in order for someone to produce that much volume, yes, it does involve something, physical activities, but it's not only about like trying to present this certain feeling or emotions, or I'm not expecting the listeners to have a certain emotional response because I'm doing something. I am just constantly trying to do something that's like I'm trying to deal with the situation with
Mm.
the language I've developed. And this language I developed not because I want to create some like really noise, but because I really like those sounds, and lots of these sounds or techniques, whatever you want to call it. There are so many different things happening, and each time I get to work on different. I get to bring out different things, and then I can still work with that, and then I can turn that into musical language. And that's the fun part too. So, and then when it comes down to composing, but like those are the melodies, and then those are the music again, like it's not like, oh, I know a nice melody, but it's just something that I know that I have deeply in me. Um, so it's just something I just have to look at it, and then it took me a time to kind of feel comfortable with it because like as you can imagine, I've been to like there was one performance like in Milano like more than 10 years ago, like 12, 13 years ago, and I did a solo set, and then they wanted me to play an encore. So I started the piece playing a melody just because, because that's what I want to do. And then after that piece, this one guy ran up to me and said, "Oh, when you start the second piece, the encore piece, I thought you're joking." I'm like, why would I joke about? It's not like I think like playing a melody or pitches. I don't want to play a stylized music. I want to play just something that I want to play at the moment. So
Mm.
yeah, so yeah, but I don't think my melodies are only tender or it's just, yeah. A friend of mine just said it's like they're like they can come off as a kind of a nice melody, but there's always something under it that's
Mm.
different. And then I kind of agree with him, but I think, yeah. So I think it's just somewhere just in it that comes naturally to me. So
I also think it's a part of you, like scales and melody. There's nothing wrong with it. There's this beautiful melody that you have in Yeo-Neun in one of the
yeah.
tracks, and
Hmm.
I've listened to it a few times. So when it comes up, I think, oh, it's really lovely. But then it's sort of like a hook that then goes on to something deeper,
Yeah.
and it's even as the listener, it's like maybe I'm more familiar at listening to a melody that it gives me access then to the space that's going in afterwards.
Yeah.
Um,
So
that I
yeah.
think it's really interesting. Do you have fear around improvisation? Maybe much more earlier on when you were starting, uh, you could talk about that process of becoming more confident. But do you still have a fear that when you do these live performances, that what if it doesn't come? What if?
Well, the thing is, like these days, they don't really happen. There are like I know that there are like other options I could take, and then I don't think they're like I'm faking it, but I have enough experiences, and then also One of the biggest changes from early on was because now it's not like I'm the only. I mean, yes, solo. There's nobody else but me. Yes, but if I'm playing with other people, you are doing it with other people. So it's not like you have to take all the burden about trying to make it happen. Um, there's some kind of trust, and then like when I play a solo and then it's not happening. Yeah, it's happened to me even recently, and then I kind of just really try to like focus what's happening right now without like trying to figure out where to take it to or why it's not happening. um and then also if I could, the I try to let things happen other than me trying to make it happen. um yeah, I mean, which is not always easy either, but I mean, I guess that's what I'm kind of hoping when I feel like, okay, it's not going whatever, then I just have to like maybe slow it down and then maybe like try to focus on whatever that I'm doing and then find a way. Like I'll try many different ways to get into it and then take something out of it. And then hopefully it'll start to unfold slowly, but it'll get me somewhere. Yeah. So, but I don't have a fear about it. I mean, the worst that can happen is that somebody maybe like thought, oh wait, well maybe that wasn't as good as they expected, but then such is life. It's not like I don't. It's not like people always say, "Oh my God, I love everything you do." I mean, I don't love whatever somebody does all the time. So
How much of that editing process and, listening in present time, you really need to be actively listening and also responding in this very quick moment of allowing.
depends. Sometimes I don't have that. I don't have the mental space. Sometimes I'm just like busy. Like I mean, for example, when I'm playing with Marclay, I don't have the mental space because he's like constantly like doing something that I don't understand. So sometimes I'm like try to understand what he's doing, but I can't. So all I can do is just like really respond to what he's producing in real time, and it's like it really doesn't give me enough room to like take a like step back. And that's that can be really fun sometimes because that kind of like limit really like push you to do something. Maybe you're like you don't even know what's happening in the bigger scan, but somehow just the fact that you're trying to make it work according to what I think it could be or would be. Yeah, but then that's again like what, as I mentioned earlier, like with I mean the trust that Mark knows what he's doing, and the focus is for me to trying to like respond to it in the real time without falling behind. So I don't know what he thinks, but anyway.
I was introduced to your work through Mark because you've done some collaboration. Maybe you could just talk about
But
the.
he doesn't know so much about my work. He knows only what I do, like with him. So
Well, I think that's what's interesting. And so you did a performance together at the Serpentine where he was giving you a pulse or providing information and you were responding to it through headphones. Is that right?
no, it was real time. It was a
Yeah, real
live
time.
concert. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Could you
It
talk
was
about
like
how
no,
that was
the one that
happening?
he feeds me rhythm is another. That's his piece of his that I played at Cafe Otto with him. Serpentine was just a gig. It
Oh,
was
okay.
only it was him and two other people. No, the rhythm thing is at Cafe Otto, and that was his piece. So that's why he
Yeah.
was fitting me the rhythm into the headphones, and nobody else could hear that except me. Yeah, but that's his piece. I forget the title, but yeah.
But then you were collaborating and responding by because we actually you couldn't hear anything that Mark was producing. You were only
You're talking about
hearing
the
your
piece?
outcome. Yeah. Of the
Yeah, but
rhythm
it was
pulses.
supposed to be. I was just supposed to follow it. I was supposed to try to make like get it as close as possible.
Hmm.
So it didn't matter because like it's not like people were just supposed to like hear that trace of me
Mm.
trying. I mean, it's supposed to try me trying to follow that trace and produce something. So I don't know what they heard, uh, but that's okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good example though of listening to a collaborator and
But that wasn't a collaboration. That's what I'm trying to say. That was his
Okay,
piece. That
right.
was his
Okay,
piece. It
yeah,
was
that's
very
wonderful.
clear
Yeah.
what I was supposed to be doing, and I did
Mm-hmm.
that. It wasn't collaboration. It
Okay,
wasn't like he was necessarily like playing with me as a duo setting.
you were
So
responding purely to his input. So collaboration maybe started. You moved to New York in the early 2000s. Is that
in
right?
2000,
And there was this very. It feels like a very rich, collaborative, experimental music scene. Um,
yeah, there was, yeah.
that just really nourished and formed a way of working for you. You were going to places like Tonic, the Knitting Factory, and it feels like this time, a point in time that just gave birth to a lot of freedom and
Yeah, I mean, it was one. I mean, I got really lucky because Tonic was there, in the first 5 years of my time in New York. And funny thing is that you just said the word collaboration, but it wasn't like collaboration. It was just like people just playing together. It's a different process because sometimes I'll be in somebody's project. Yes, I'm a collaborating means like play together in the improv in a group, but I mean, I don't know if I call that a collaboration. Just
what do you define
collaboration.
collaboration as?
Collaboration is something that you kind of actually develop some kind of relationship. You have a better understanding with each other and then kind of go on with it. But in New York, it wasn't like collaboration. It was like constantly playing with so many. I mean, I'm not saying that I didn't collaborate with people, but it's not like you constantly collaborate with all these people. With some people, you're playing in somebody else's band. Sometimes you just play parts. Sometimes you are playing as a soloist. You know what I mean? There are all sorts of different roles that I got to experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what really enriched me because most of the people are so open. They didn't care what kind of music that you're playing. And even I was trying to start a project. Maybe I write the music for people, maybe a jazz person, plus some noise guitar player who doesn't read music, plus somebody who does electronics DJing, who has no understanding of following cues, just because I really like their sounds together. So it was more like just people were just open. They had no resistance trying out other people's projects or playing together. And then it was just like Tonic was filled with musicians who just hanging out. And then you could just go and then you didn't have to know who's playing. You just show up and then there'll be always something interesting, something different. And, it could be a friend, it could be somebody that you never knew. And then it could be some indie rock band. And yeah, it was just fun. It was just like exciting. It was alive and you really get to hear lots of different things. And yeah, so it's just, yeah, everybody came together and it kind of stopped happening like that in New York um, after Tonic was gone, basically. So
Do you feel that that point in time was really where you learned or grasped your own voice?
I guess that was that. I mean, I don't think it came that early. It was like that. It was again like me kind of really jumping into everything that was coming to my direction, and then just like really wanting to play, wanting to experience as much as possible, and I think I was a little crazy back then. It's just like I mean, really, like I know it sounds so cheesy, but then I think that's when so-called this music became my life. I mean, it sounds really cheesy, but just like playing music and listen to music was the only important thing in my life. Um, and then I mean, eventually that kind of got me actually. I guess I start to have this thing called a taste. Also by listening to lots of different things because when I moved to New York, everything was exciting. Everything was amazing. Everybody was like the most amazing musicians. But as you listen to different kinds of music, your ears also have a develop, and then you start to form this thing called a taste, and then you start to form this your personal aesthetic, and then slowly but surely you realize, okay, that I'm not interested, that I'm more curious about. Okay, and then there'll be something that I don't quite understand, but I'm curious, but you know what I mean. Like you kind of start to have a like navigate, learn how to navigate between all these different group of people and styles and venues. Um, yeah, I think that's what happened in the first 5 years, and then maybe the next 5 years was me trying to kind of realize, okay, what is it I want to do? Now I say, I don't like that. I like that one. So then, what do I do with that information myself? And then try that out. And yeah, there are lots of trials that failed, and I'm sure that once in a while it was okay, and then but most of the time it was just trial and error, and then so yeah.
Are you good at self reflection and editing? And were you aware of making those choices, or did it just sort of happen that you started to frame a dialogue with yourself or become more clear of what you were wanting to do? Like, was that a goal? I want to find out what my voice is, or did it just sort of happen because?
Well, first of all, it was more about like, okay, how do I make my playing kind of a really like unique, like my own. I think that was always like one of, I mean, because there was a reason that I got into improvisation. Is like, what is me doing it? There are like lots of, I mean, there are so many cello players who can play way better than I do. But then what is that I can do, and then what is that I'm trying to do? So trying to find my own voice, that was always, I think, one of the strongest driving forces. And I think it is still, what is that I do? Why am I doing this? What is that only I can do? And then in terms of musical taste, I I don't know, because I'm quite clear on what I like and what I don't like. So it could be like, maybe the third time I listen to the same band, and then maybe by the third time I said, okay, I'm not interested in this anymore. Then I'll just move on. So, but it wasn't like, oh my God, I have to find my own aesthetic, but it just like happened. And then also on top of that, certain setting of making music is just not as interesting. You kind of I mean, there was a time that I was playing with lots of like loud, more of a free jazz setting, and I didn't even have a proper microphone. And lots of times I couldn't even hear myself. And it was exciting at the beginning, but because it's a totally different medium. And then also the energy that you get from being on the stage is quite exciting. But later on, you realize, okay, I don't even hear what I'm doing. What is that I'm doing here? And then, yeah, sometimes it can be that simple. And then, yeah, so like, also like, yeah, as I said, certain situations you just don't feel like you're part of it. Then, okay, I guess this is not my place. Bye. And then, yeah, so it's just kind of naturally.
Were there performances that you remember that were just shook you, like, wow, this really makes me shine? Or was there something that you've watched, like another musician, that it
That
sticks
I
with
was
you?
in awe.
Yeah.
To be honest, no. I think that was a good thing. I mean, there was some, like, for example, like in 2013, I went to play in a Venice Biennale because Butch Morris he brought his ensemble there for the music program. And I mean, 2013 was still quite early on, and I really didn't know so much about like tradition of free jazz or improv music. And then I went to hear this concert, Roscoe Mitchell, George Lewis, and Muhal Richard Abrams. And that might have been the first time I actually heard three of them. I mean, like, even in person. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, and it was one of those moments, and I don't know if I can, if I don't think I can say I like the music, but I was in awe because it just felt like these three people are making music in a way that was so new to me, but at the same time it seemed like it made so much sense. It was like three individuals with almost like three different universes kind of coexisting at the same time on the stage, but then they'll come together at some point and they'll have some kind of a moment of doing something together, and they'll just go away, and then they become like three individual universes again. And then, yeah, it was like constantly going in and out and in and out way of like playing with each other. And I was shocked. I remember being shocked, not because I thought music was beautiful, but it was something more than that. So, for example, like, yeah, like concerts like that, being there and having that kind of experience is something that, I mean, again, I don't know if I was like, let's say like that was like 5 years later, I might have had a different ideas about the concert, but that was certain phase I was in, I guess. So
You
um
perform with other people. When you come together with these other people that you perform with, how do you approach that? When it's all just together in unison, not so much you directing a project that you're working on. So, for example, you did a performance with Christian Marclay for the Whitney.
yeah.
It was in reference to the Calder's work with the small sphere and heavy sphere. How did you approach that? So there was a ball moving around objects and knocking it and creating vibrational sound, but then you were also performing alongside it.
Yeah, I was improvising to what Christian was doing with the Calder sculpture. That's it.
Do you approach it though just really listening in the moment, or do you come together beforehand and create an idea of how
Nope idea. Just
just
play.
really
Yeah.
responding in that time?
Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I think improvisation is. And then, also Christian and I, we spent enough time working together. So I understand him, he understands me. And then, as I said, we have quite a strong trust in each other that whatever that happens, he's there and then I'm here and it'll be okay. Yeah.
Mm, that's really nice. And then, for example, you've got your if my pronunciation is correct, Yeo-Neun
Yeah. Then, yeah.
the quartet.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's something that you created an ensemble for your own work.
Yeah.
And so how do you approach, do you compose in those situations, or is that again improvisation?
That's a very different project because that they are my pieces. So
Mm.
I put together this band and just I mean, I met Maeve, the harpist, maybe like I think it was like 2016 or 17, I forget. And then playing my other friend's project, and I just thought she had an amazing energy, and also like her playing was amazing. So I wanted to do something. I thought it would be nice to do something with her, and then but I knew that she wasn't necessarily like coming from like completely doing improv scene because she comes from more of a like Irish, like traditional music, Irish and Scottish traditional music. So I was thinking, oh, it'll be kind of nice to just start something with her, and then also have a rhythm section of Jacob and Ivan. And I usually only write for people that I know, but then somehow this time it was for the people that I didn't really know. Um, but what I had was I didn't have any like reason to develop the project other than that I wanted to try something out. So it was really slowly developed, and then I'll maybe bring a few tunes and then kind of like see how they respond to, and then like try to shape them. And then with one concert, and then maybe 6 months will go by, and then then I'll work on the pieces a little more, bring a couple more other tunes, and then we do we work on them, the concerts. So we played in New York like 3 or 4 times, period, over 2 years, and then we went to the studio to record. So that was quite a different situation. Yeah.
And so when you are composing, how do you approach writing the music? Are you doing it over a long period of time? You're improvising one little moment and then connecting them all together.
When I compose, I'm not improvising. I mean, composing is composing. Like,
Sure, but I'm just trying to think of how do you generate the ideas for composition, and it's obviously private in your own space.
well, melodies come and then melodies starts, and then and it's not like I don't think I find these melodies that's like improvising. There are certain melodies it gets generated and then start work on it. So I mean, improv doesn't really become when I mean, again, when I'm composing something like project for like Yeo-Neun, which is like more like a tune based. But then, for example, when I'm composing like something like Tim, which was for like multi-track cello sounds, then it kind of takes improvisation because it's mostly about using the sounds of the material. But when it's like tune based, meaning melodies, then melodies. I mean, I guess you could say like, okay, if I sing the same melody 10 times, maybe it'll get me somewhere. I mean, if but I don't know if you can call that improvisation. But so yeah, I guess depending on the what kind of a project this is, and then also one thing I have to remind myself is like um what's the for example, Yeo-Neun was never about improvisation. I mean, there's enough improvisation into it, but improvisation is just used as one of main ingredients, right? So I also like I have to allow that each players to bring their own voices in improvising because everybody has a different approach. So I also have to understand what they would do, how they would sound like. So how do I place it in the um, proper spots on each pieces, for example. So that's how I use improvisation in that kind of composition. But when it's more like solo, like solo cello stuff, multi-layer, multi-track cello solo stuff, then I kind of play because I'm playing with something that's like more abstract ideas or sounds. So that kind of I can try out different ways, and then to get to try out lots of things. I guess that does that's kind of similar to how I improvise, but I have time to go back and edit it and then continue. Yeah.
Do you teach composition?
Nope. I mean, I taught music and sound, and then I mean I've taught, but not like
I'm just wondering, how do you approach your teaching? And
I teach usually trying to get people to do what they really think they want to do. Yeah, I've done.
which is really hard to sort of articulate sometimes.
Yeah, because you have to constantly kind of like you have to encourage them, but also at the same time, when it becomes so self-indulging, you have to say like, okay, this is not the right direction, or maybe just don't take the easiest way. I I don't know. I guess the teaching can be a little tricky for me because I do believe everybody's different. Everybody has a different approach to what they're doing, and then different strength. And I try to understand the individual, and that tends to take lots of time and energy. Yeah, so I usually just like ask what they want to do or what they think they want to do, and then try to kind of give a honest feedback, and then yeah, give honest feedback. Yeah, but I mean, I don't have a curriculum. I guess that's what I'm saying. It's not like I have a certain system of how to write music. It's like, I mean, as I said earlier, because that's what my cello teacher did, and then I hated it. So, and I don't want to be that kind of person. That kind of imposing this is the way to like compose.
Yeah, and so maybe you haven't created a system that you think this is the way to make music that
No, no,
you
no,
use, and then you're trying to impart that
no,
on.
no, no, no,
You
never.
really want to cultivate that space for everyone to
Yeah,
follow
exactly.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, I think, just talking about those different stages that you've been through. It may not have been the end point, but they've all been very vital in contributing to whatever it is that you're doing. So I think this idea of learning and understanding who we are doesn't necessarily come to fruition until,
Yeah, but
or
it's
the
not.
understanding isn't clear until, you're just continually building.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's always fleeing. I mean, I mean, you're just like trying to be, you're just trying to look at yourself as close and as direct as possible in that moment. Not because you want to say this is me. This is not. You're not trying to define what you are doing or who you are, but you're just trying to understand what you're like in the moment, and then also, there are certain things you know how to do through your experiences or your interest, but then you have to be able to have an access to all of that because you are in this place. You know what I mean? It's like because it reflects to your past, all this life that you've lived. So trying to bring all that together and then make something that's like honest, that's really like connected to who you are and where you are in the moment. But it can change like next month. But then okay, that's okay too. But it's just you're just like you are happen to be making something in this moment. So you put everything in and then try to understand and then do something. Or either like, put, I mean, I guess it's like more like kind of like you have to, because also you have to make it into something like solid, like either an album or concert, so you can actually have a distance from it. You know what I mean? You have to produce something. Then you'll have a better understanding of what it actually is. Then you can move on. So you're just like going through different stages, phases. Then eventually, when you look back, whether you still think that what you did like 10 years ago was good or not, but then you know that that was as best as you could do. So you just say, okay, that's what I did 10 years ago. This is what I'm doing. And next year, I don't know what's going to happen.
When you say having distance from it, is that, do you think, important to have then reflection? Is that why you're saying that, to separate
You
yourself
cannot have
from
a
it?
reflection unless you have a distance. How can you have a reflection when you're so close to it? And then also, like, you have to be able to remove you out of the music once it's done. I mean, I just did this piece I just did in, again, like in Bergen, was like a piece I wrote for these people. But when actually when it was the performance, during the performance, I realized, okay, it has almost it. Yes, I created a certain context and then formats and all that. But once it was being played, it wasn't mine anymore, you know? And I was totally okay with that. It wasn't like me. It wasn't like me trying to say, okay, no, no, you guys play exactly what it's supposed to sound like. But they took it, and then I was also like in it, and then I just like I didn't have any anticipation of where it was going or what it was. I was just in it, and so did the musicians and the audience, and that was an amazing experience because just it happened. And I think that's the eventual goal of making music. It's not like, hey, I made this amazing piece, but it's more like it became music on its own. And that's when that happens, that's I mean, I'm really grateful that happened. And it's not because I did something. It's just somehow it all came together, and it wasn't mine. It was not mine. So
Particularly in this avant-garde experimental music scene, you get to bend and touch all these various and different types of thinking that you maybe wouldn't have had you just stayed on your own solo performance, just doing your thing. Do you feel that has shaped you in a significant way?
uh
Like showing you what's possible or showing you different ways?
yeah, but it's not like I decided to play with Mark because he's the electronics musician.
No, I'm not saying that's the decision, but just because you do come across these people, it just exposes you to a different idea because that person has a different idea of thinking. And so you come together and share or exchange what you're thinking about and what they're thinking about, and maybe just through an osmotic process that influences or has the potential to influence you to think about things differently that you're doing.
I don't know, because I mean the thing is, it's not like I'm constantly it's not like I don't, as I said, I don't understand what Mark does, and I don't think Mark does what I do. Mark understands what I do, but it's not. I mean, yes, having like playing with him is a great experience. It's a certain challenge that I enjoy, and then also the sound that he makes is intriguing. But yeah, but I mean, what I'm saying is, like, I mean, this like it's like exchange of ideas. I don't know what that means exactly.
Well, I think just people.
I mean, it does expose me to certain different
Mm.
sonic aesthetics and then different mindset, but it's not like I'm not. I mean, maybe it does, but maybe, I mean, I don't know up to what capacity. But yes, I've been lucky because I've been playing with a lots of different people coming from different backgrounds, and I'm sure it did open up certain things, but also at the same time, um, Like, for example, because I play with the Christian Marclay for so long, I don't sound like Christian Marclay, but we just happen to have a very similar approach to sound. But you know what I mean? It's like this, like influences, like it's something that I don't quite understand.
Maybe not influence, but we were talking about stepping away and having distance, like the music becomes the music. That when you work with all these different people, the music is unexpected, but you get to listen to this piece of work that is so unique because it's made up of you and it's made up of someone else, and so that combination is just a rare one in like moment in that time. And then if you worked with a different, like a harpist, that music that is created is very different. So you're not just creating one type of music all the time that sounds the same. You're creating this vast array of different
Right, but what I'm saying is
outcomes.
I don't necessarily consider them as different. I think they are just like all the same way of just like making music.
Sure, maybe the
Yeah.
your approach of making music, but as a listener, they my experience is they've got different rhythm, they've got different resonance, tone, feeling that I respond to. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's I mean, so however people hear it is their response. It's not like I'm not trying to create something with that in mind.
Do you practice your instrument every day?
Nope.
And does Berlin have a good like experimental music scene, or a music scene that feels
It's
like
like
you
one
can
of the
connect with?
biggest. It's one of the biggest. That's why people are always like there are so many people here. It's like it's probably I mean, yeah, it's massive here. But it's been like that for a long time.
Hmm. Is there other places in the world? Because you have, in a way, been a bit of a nomad, traveling and living overseas for a long time. Are there places in the world that you've felt uh, you have a place with, or that?
Well, I there was a time that Oslo felt like it was interesting, and there was a time I thought Brussels could be interesting, but I think these days it doesn't matter anymore. It's just like it's so international, and then just because there are lots of people, musicians in one place doesn't really mean that it's better. It just means that you have an access to maybe more concerts and more musicians if you want to. Um, So I don't know. It's I these days I don't think there is such a place that it's like, oh, that place you should go to. Like, for example, London. I always thought it was a one of the most interesting places to go to, but then also these days it changed a lot because it became even more difficult to live there as a musician. So the scene is kind of struggling too. So yeah. So right now, no. Berlin, just lots of people.
Do you plan on staying in Berlin
I don't know. I
long
just
term?
got
You have
here.
no, yeah. So I ask everyone this question: what do you celebrate
What I celebrate? In what?
in general in life? What things in your life bring you
Cats.
joy?
Cats. Cats, cats, cats these days. Cat
Do you,
videos.
do you have a cat yourself?
No, no, I wish I could, but I mean, I can't have a pet with my lifestyle. So, my family used to have one, but then he died 2 years ago.
Mm.
Yeah, but now, yeah, one. I don't know. I guess when I get older, when I have to settle down and when I don't have to travel, maybe I can open a little like cat rescue and then dedicate my life to cats. That's kind of dream, but I don't know when that can happen.
How often are you traveling for performances and?
Well, I guess it depends. I used to be like, I mean, there was a time that I was gone. Like I will be on the road for like couple months, then go back to New York for 1 month, and then go back to Europe for 2 months. But it's not like I constantly travel. I'd like to stay in one spot for at least a few days. Now I'm done with this like kind of a busy period. I don't think I go away until the end of April. So and that's only for one-off gig, and I have a couple of things in Berlin. So yeah, I think this year I try to maybe stay here as much as possible.
What are the performances that you have coming up?
One is with this pianist from Sweden, Lisa Ullin, and we are playing a duo. think this might be the first duo concert we are doing actually. And then the following week, I'm sharing a bill with Jessica Ekumane. She's sound artist and electronics composer from France, but she's been in Berlin for many years. So I'm sharing a bill with her, and then Kamaru, so like two other electronics musicians at the this contemporary art space called the KW. Then I go to Milan to play with Rashad Becker.
Ah.
Yeah.
So I saw that Rashad Becker did the mastering for your album, which was such a surprise to me because I really like Rashad's work and
I think he's really like well respected mastering engineer. But it's not it wasn't my
connection.
choice. It was
Oh, right.
yeah, it's like Lasse and Stephen probably. I mean, I didn't really know about Rashad before, so I
But
knew
you're
that
performing now with Rashad,
yeah,
upcoming. Yeah.
yeah, but we've done a few times before.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And how do you meet the people that you are performing with? Do you just contact them or is it
I rarely contact people. It just happens. Um I think somebody in oh yeah, no, it was it was a festival in Stockholm. They just invited me and Rashad to play together. Um I didn't say Rashad, and I don't think Rashad said me, but it was their idea, and then just came together. And then other people that Lisa, I met her a long time ago, in 2008 or seven maybe. Then we kind of played a few times, mostly in a trio setting, and yeah, then we just playing together, and then yeah, so like that. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I with Mark, it was the Serpentine gig, and then with the Christian invited me to play with another cello player for this thing he organized, and yeah, so it's not it's I yeah, that's how things happen.
mm,
So
it's nice, yeah. So I'll ask you one more question. I wanted to ask you about the Instagram pictures of the sky and
mhm.
what they are
They
reflecting or representing.
no, they just like the capturing the moment, and I just love looking up the sky, and then also it kind of makes me remember where I took that picture from. I mean, there's just like sky, and then they usually just like they're not edited. They usually just like I just like something that I see, and then just take a picture and then just put it up. Just to really like the record of that moment, and I feel like the sky is something obviously like it's. I mean, it's somebody's like there's no another random sky because sky is one thing, which I know, but just happens to the moment of that I took this picture. No, just like kind of reminder that hey, I didn't forget to look up.
Mm.
Because sometimes just like busy just going somewhere, and then it's kind of nice to see something like different shapes of clouds, or it can be different shades of sky, or it can be certain how certain building looks in certain angle with the lots of sky behind. So it's just yeah, it's just like something quick.
It feels like being present is very important, particularly in improvisation and listening and just how you
Hmm.
live your life. Was there something in your childhood that shaped you to be that way? Have you always been in that way, or was this?
I don't remember what I was like when I was a kid. Uh, Being in the moment, probably. I think yeah. I probably when I started improvising, it became kind of important. But I didn't even think about that. I was trying to be in the moment. I think it came later. I realized that that's what it's really about. I mean, as I said, like when I started, especially when I moved to New York, I didn't have that space, mental space that I can kind of think what I was doing. I was just like busy trying to deal with it, trying to play because that was because it's something that was happening like beyond me, so but I just wanted to deal with it as best as possible. So yeah, like oh, this is really about being in the moment, kind of, but that realization came way later. So
And is there a way for you to access, or when you're not in that moment? And I think maybe you earlier talked about slowing down and listening, but do you find you know how to get into the moment, looking up at the sky, maybe?
Yeah, or constant talk to yourself. I don't know. I mean, it's not easy to be really in the moment all the time. But when I'm playing the music, because I have no choice, right? Because it's really happening right now. But in my life, trying to be in the moment is, well, it's not easy. Hmm. But yeah, like I guess taking the picture like that, random sky is another way of me trying to say like, okay, I'm here. I'm here. I don't care, like, whether people know where I am, or, it's not like I'm trying to say, hey, I'm in Paris. Hey, I'm in Brussels. You know what I mean? It's like, but I'm just like trying to make connection with that space at that particular moment. So
Mm.
that makes me feel like, okay, you know, I mean, I guess also maybe it could be total bullshit, but sometimes like, I guess it's about you trying to understand what the hell you're doing in this life and in this world. Yeah, so having that moment, okay, so I'm connected. It's not like I'm just somehow like one in isolated being, but somehow I'm connecting with this building. It doesn't have to be a human. It can be this tree. It can be this cloud. It can be so yeah, having that moment, I guess.
And do you feel that the cello has been a teacher for you in a way to help understand that question of like, what is my life about? And in a way, playing the music and playing the cello and exploring this space has given you back this reflection of what you, who you are. And do you think another instrument would have, taken you on a different path? And in a way, you've never felt connected to the cello, but then it's actually been the vehicle for you to understand.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean I never thought about what if I played different instrument, but I would just never came to me because that's I just played cello all my life. I mean, I don't know if it like allowed me to think about music in different ways, but I know that I have a real relationship with the instrument, not cello, but my instrument.
Mm.
So it's not about me playing the cello, but this cello, particular cello.
How long have you
So
had your cello?
since I was 12,
This is the same
yeah,
instrument.
yeah. So
That's
I,
amazing.
so yeah, I think there's certain like definite connection that I don't know how to call it, but it is there. And then it's yeah. So and it's I mean, there was a 2 months that I didn't have my cello on the road because after the first gig that it had an
Mm-hmm.
accident. So I had to play different cello in each cities. And at first I was really like worried. I freaked out. And then quickly I got over it because each cello was so different. I had to figure out what to do with it fast. And then that was kind of fun. But then, when I got my cello back, and sometimes I don't touch it for a couple months just because, like when I have other deadlines. But still, like when I go back and I play just long tone and I hear it, and then it's just my cello. It's my sound being played on this cello, and yeah, just like feels like yeah, still connected. And then there are lots of things I still don't know how to do it well, and I'd like to like work on it. I mean, one of the goals is to actually to practice here more. Now have a more space and then also more privacy. So I wanna really kind of go back to like really like fundamental way of playing, like playing long tones and then working on my vibrato and then working on my left finger, that kind of thing. So, and that does get meditative. That does get really like, that really calms me down. And yeah,
Yeah, it becomes a visceral.
yes, I really
You
like,
have to be so present to listen and feel, both listen and feel to how it's.
yeah, it really connects somewhere deep inside. So that does make me feel content, I guess, more than anything. Yeah.
And when you are performing, is that feel inside feeling like there? I don't know how to
When I
describe it,
play,
but when you're playing, it's like that's the place you're connecting with a feeling
depending.
that maybe you don't even know what that feeling is, but.
once in a while I can still have it when I'm playing, if it's a solo concert, if when it's like, because when I'm playing with other people, actually my focus is not on me, focus is on other people. So the relationship to the cello becomes little different, little, there's more like separation. But when it's like, especially as I said, like at the beginning of the solo performance and I have no idea where to start, then I have to kind of play something and then let that like happen to me, to my body, and then like start to roll little by little, and then push my cello, and then it'll give me something back, and then I go with it, or just keep pushing, hoping something will come. But yeah, having that relationship does happen when I'm playing the solo. Yeah.
Intimacy of how much do you listen or pay attention to the audience and how they're responding? Is that of any concern?
I used to, I mean, I should tell them straight to their face. I don't care what, whether, I mean, the thing is like, because then, why I could have just like be playing by myself in my room. Like I used to think the audience was there because of, I mean, I am really like, especially when I'm playing the solo, I'm doing something that's really personal and intimate. And then all I do is like, I really try to go this deep into this connection I just told you about, and then try to make something music out of it within from that. And then other people are there to witness and then go on that journey together, just like follow me navigating through, and then hopefully that'll become something of a music or whatever. And then that changed a bit, especially after the first term, when Trump became the president the first time. And then I kind of know, I mean, it was obvious that the world was like heading to a very different places from then. I mean, maybe it was, and then maybe we just like, didn't know about it. We just lied to ourselves. I don't know. Then I start to wonder, like, who are these people that we are playing this music for? And then what is this music, Like, I mean, I know why I do it. And then I was, I'm still doing it. But back in the days, it was even for my own enjoyment, my reason to actually keep investigating into this music and playing the cello and the sounds, whatever. Then after that, when you kind of realize, oh shit, maybe this person sitting right next to you might have a very different ideology from you, and then like having this kind of, oh, we are all in different bubbles, and then I will start to ask, like I didn't ask them directly, but I became kind of curious. Wow, who are these people? Why are they here? What are they really listening to? So after having that question, I guess I started to, not that I did something with that consideration in my work necessarily, but they were like this, like presence of an audience became one part of something of the format that I was working with. And I think that's, I mean, before that, when I was doing more of this like performance with a dancer, kind of trying to pull people away from being just a passive listener, it was about like just almost like trying to just shake them up in a way. It wasn't like I wasn't curious who they were. I just wanted to get them from like stop being a passive audience, and whatever I do, they'll just like sit there, just like they can be thinking something totally unrelated, and then just like sit there quietly. So at first it was more like trying to shake them up and then try to get them out of that like certain role that they're playing. But then after the Trump administration, that I really became curious who these people were, why are they here. So it's not like I want to like get all the individual answers, but yeah, I guess I start to become more curious about them. And then also, again, not all the composition, not all the projects, but then there are certain projects I do have that in mind, and then I try to find a way to have that somehow included in a piece. And especially when I'm doing yeah, but I mean, I don't know, because I did this piece. I'm sorry, I'm just like like kind of going all
No,
different
it's
places,
good.
but because I forget the exact year, but I thought it was 16. But it was after Trump became the president. I also went to play in the same festival in Bergen, Norway, called Borealis, and I'm good friends with the director Peter. Meanwhile, and then we just talking about how horrible the world is going to and going, and then I started asking me, what's the point of playing this kind of music? I mean, it could be like, maybe we are just making this music just to feel good about them ourselves, and then we just like we are in this kind of bubble, and only people who have a certain understanding of or knowledge in this music can only appreciate. Am I making music for certain like this kind of elitist mentality, which became a problem for me, so he just said, maybe you want to do something to address this issue, then you're like your fear and then your worries, and then I didn't know how to do it, but I just thought, okay, I need to find a way to bring this audience into my piece. So title of the piece was called Still Hoping for a Miracle with a question mark. And it was like me, Roger Davis, Anhara Davis, and Chris Carson are playing the music in each four corners. And I sent out this bunch of questionnaires. It was like something really simple as like, what did you have for breakfast? Or, what do you think about the director's haircut? To something like, what really gets like when you're really feeling down, what makes you get out of bed in the morning, something really intimate. And people could write that answer anonymously and then just send me the written answers, and then I collect them. And then while playing, the musicians will take a turn, and we go into the center where the computer was, and then type the question and the answer that we picked, and then it will be projected on the wall. So it was kind of really like primitive way of bringing the audience in, but I guess like because the answers were sincere, nobody took it like as a joke. People really came up with a sincere answer. They really put themselves in it, and then even though I didn't know who they were, but just for that moment, I just felt like, oh wow, we are really sharing this together. And then also the audience, because we're all looking at the wall, reading the question, and then everybody's like thinking about their own answers. So it all really became like clear that we are in this together, and that
And
we
all
are not in
part of
this bubble.
something.
Yeah, we are not in this bubble, and that we all have a certain respect for each other. Everybody's equal here. So
Yeah, that's
having that,
lovely.
yeah, so having that experience really kind of almost like restored that little bit of hope. I mean, so the title "Still Hoping for a Miracle" became, I got the answers. Yes. So yeah,
Do you
yeah.
want to explore that kind of way of performance more?
Yeah, I tried, and then I tried a couple more times, and then when I did in London, half the answers were cynical and very joke, for example. So but that's okay. And so I've done in a few places. Some places work, some places maybe didn't happen, but But then it started to feel like I was doing it as more like a gimmick, so I kind of stopped doing it. So I'm trying to find a different way to. I guess that's something I kind of want to explore somehow. But also I'll just have to plan it better.
I think it's also that it seems to be so important in your work to be present. And in that present moment, you were genuinely searching for that connection and
Yeah.
facilitating that. And that's why it was so successful. But then when it was pre planned and maybe didn't have the same like intimacy.
Yeah, and then also it was a very different setting, and then also I mean, like for example, when I did that in New York, it was like like half more than half of the answers were tongue in cheek, for example. So I thought it was kind of funny that kind of really reflected what kind of audience you get in each cities. So it became an interesting social study in the end.
What other questions do you have at the moment? Or do you have questions at the moment that you're trying to understand in your work?
Right now, I guess I mean, it's yeah. How can we humans be so terrible and so amazing at the same time? We as and that's why I said like I hate people, but I'm still curious about people, because seemingly like especially like you keep hearing about this like really awful act of people just beyond you can imagine. This like terrible acts happening, so much violence, so much hatred, but then also at the same time you keep running into these people who can show you so much love, and then so much warmth, and then so what does this mean? Are we like are we really like divided into like either you are either good or bad? I mean, what does that even mean? And then also, for some people, this act of certain violence is somehow justifiable, while it is just unacceptable to so many others. What is this? What are we? What kind of animal are we? So, but I don't know. I don't have the answer, because I feel like when I did that piece in 2016, 17, whatever, it feels like there was a still like this somehow like glimpse of, yes, we'll fight, and then it'll get better somehow. This is temporary, this will pass, and then we will kind of come out of it, okay. But then right now, it's the level of atrocity is like beyond I had imagined possible. So I don't know.
How do you approach living your life with joy and celebrating opportunities that you've got and making music amongst like these climates that are just so horrific?
So, because first of all, if I guess it's like, even though I like have this like I'm a very like pessimistic person, thinking that we are all heading to the doom and that we all need to, the earth will be destroyed. But I don't know. I don't want to give up this like tiny bit of hope that there's always. I mean, I was telling another friend of mine, because also things are going crazy in Korea, and then you read so much about this like terrible side of people acting out, and then but then also there are lots of people who maybe you don't see or read about them, but they just kind of really continue and then try to be good people. And so I guess so in that sense. So again, because I just had this experience a few days ago, like, for example, in Bergen, that I was working with this like basically 16 strangers, that people I didn't know. And then but you just like sense that there's a mutual respect, and then not because I am the composer, but just like as just a human being, they just have they are considerate, and they're understanding, and respectful. And then just like, and then I see lots of people that has the warmth, just like that I can feel right away, just like by like having just a one like small conversation with them. And then so just like keep reminding myself that it is also real. It's this all these things, are terrible things happen, that's real, but this is also real. So I cannot let that kind of destroy what's really right in front of me. I mean, that's the same thing with the being present. And then like, and but then I really have to appreciate it. I really have to cherish it, and then nurture it, and then just keep that in my heart, and then go on until I run out of it. And then the best way I can do is like, making music that's honest and that's sincere. Since sincerity is another thing that's really important to me. Something that's really sincere, that it's not about like me showing off. It's not like me trying to express who I am, but it's like I'm really trying to make music that's honest. Yeah, I think that's the most important thing. And then hopefully that gets to some other people, whether other people I'm playing with or the audience listening to it. There is a moment that they feel something like joy or sincerity or something, and then something that they can carry with themselves, even for 5 minutes. It's okay, but that kind of thing spread out. But because that's what I know how to do.
I think that's a lovely thing to do. It's like a gesture, giving someone a gesture of being present. Even if it is for 5 minutes, I think is
exactly
better than not at all. So I think
because once you know that it happened, it doesn't go away. You know what I mean? You know that it happened, and I know it happened. So I can hold on to this for a while until I can't, and then hopefully there'll be another moment, and then. But I think this is how people survived. It's not because I mean we we're so used to having this certain hero, some like amazing figure that comes and saves us. But, I don't think that's how, maybe that's how we survive. But I kind of like to think that actually these are the small moments that kind of keeps you going.
It's a really lovely way to think about it, that, we can have all our own autonomy of making the choice to survive and be present, and then that kind of disperses into a community of, or a group of people.
Yeah, so that's why I don't give up, because I think it's also real. It's and that kept me going this far.
Thank you for sharing that. Well, I've really enjoyed speaking with you. I think there's so many nuances to your work and how you approach it. So
yeah, so I'm just like
I appreciate
jumping in
the
and out,
dose.
but then,
No, it's healthy. I want to ask one more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
If you don't mind sharing, what did you have for breakfast?
Today I had a you call it wheat bix, that terrible dry thing with oat milk and blueberries. With bix, right? That's a British thing. Yeah, I had that one.
And Australia, I used to have that for breakfast as a kid.
Yeah,
I
I
have it
kind
with
of like
banana
it.
though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I had blueberries.
Nice.
That's trying to be healthy. I'm older.
Well, thank you, Okkyung.
Sure.
I wish you well for the year, and it'll be exciting to see what becomes of it.
Yeah, let's see what happens. I don't know what's gonna happen, but at the moment, I am very grateful. I am grateful. I feel lucky, and then So
Okay. Well, take care.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to We Are Art People. You can listen to full episodes on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We are online at www.weareartpeople.com. Sign up to our newsletter for show updates and happenings, and please share with someone who may enjoy listening. See you next time.